Her name is Brenda Christian. She is the youngest direct descendant of Fletcher Christian, seaman of His Majesty's ship Bounty, and master mate to Captain Bligh, whom he overthrew by mutiny more than 170 years ago in the South Pacific. This place is Pitcairn Island. This is where Fletcher Christian and his men burned the Bounty, the ship that had brought them there, in case they should be tempted to leave. On that day they renounced the world which they had made their enemy. In the year 1790, 9 mutinous sailors led by Fletcher Christian, with 18 Tahitian men and women, started their own lost world on 2 square miles of a dead volcano. 1,000 miles of ocean from any other human soul. And the thing that began in violence and blood and retribution slowly retreated into oblivion. Over the long and lonely years, their numbers grew, and the world that had first denounced the Bounty mutineers and then forgotten them had rediscovered their heirs at last. There were originally 27 settlers on Pitcairn. Today, there are 128. 128 people living under the handful of roofs called Adamstown. Today, Pitcairn expects a ship. For about 2 hours, once in a while, the outside world intrudes on this speck on the face of the Pacific. This moment must be made the most of. The only landing place on Pitcairn is still the identical little cove the mutineers found in 1790, crouching under the great cliff 250 feet high they call the Edge. Down there are the boats that are the island's only bridge to the society of other people. South Sea Island life, in fact, is less idyllic than its fiction. Pitcairn is no paradise of languor and tranquility. It is either dull or desperate. Idleness interrupted by sudden and furiously hard work, in which all who can must join, the men and the women. Queen Victoria gave the island the first of their 3-ton longboats, and the rest have all been modelled from it. Heavy craft to be pulled through miles of sea, or today, towed by their only motorboat, since there are now too few to man the oars. The Pitcairn people are seamen, descendants of seamen. Remote children of Englishmen from 200 years ago and of the Polynesian sea folk, still surviving 5 generations of inbreeding. Through both their streams of blood flows the sea. This is their element, dividing them from mankind, and now bringing mankind to their door. what does the passing visitor make of these strange barefoot survivors of history? They will see them only for an hour or so, once in a lifetime. Yet these are the people whose fathers made part of the legend of a navy, and that navy wore pigtails and fought the French. But Pitcairn has nothing to offer to the world except the kind of curiosity that some might call romance. That, and a pound or two of grapefruit, and the homemade trinkets that have no roots in any South Sea culture, since the islanders were taught to make them by a German 40 years ago. That, and stamps, the kind that go in albums, not on letters. Thus, the people of Pitcairn have little to contribute except their own survival. They are the curios of the South Pacific, and that, perhaps, not for long. The old people, who are now too weak to pull the oars, and the young, who are too small, can only wait while others, stronger and more able, unite the past and the future. The moment has passed. The link is broken. The ship sails on, to Panama, to Auckland, in either direction to another world. The island people sing their farewell song, as they always do at this time of isolation and regret. Now they are left again in the half-world to which they were committed by Fletcher Christian and his crew in the days of George III. Survival today is not a passive thing. It is labor, endeavor, resourcefulness, toil. The world has forgotten the mutiny on the Bounty, though indeed hanged a few, outlawed a few, and abandoned the rest. But now the island needs for its existence things that only the world can provide. Today, it needs a new generator to make light for its wooden houses and power for its radio station, for Pitcairn has somewhat come to terms with the 20th century. And when that process starts, there is no arresting it. For if lights need a generator, the generator will need fuel. Everything heavy must be manhandled up that 250-foot cliffside track. Everything borne by the communal effort of everybody. For only that way can such a society continue. Not everything is big and heavy. Not everyone needs machinery. But all the descendants of Fletcher Christian and his men are somehow reaching out to meet the contemporary world halfway. The toys of our time now bring a reflection, a vague concept, of what lies over the huge horizon all around. It isn't real, but it grows more comprehensible every year and more desirable. The island is not forgotten. Few people have seen it, but multitudes know of its strange story and its persuasive mystery. Some people send gifts to the community, and the community distributes what it gets impartially in the share-out. In this, as in all else, the islanders are a unit. While some come to the share-out for a yard of cloth, or a tot of treacle, or a pound of biscuits, what passes for the island's manufacture goes on. The carving and creating of the odd and alien objects that are the islanders' only commerce, whittling and weaving the time away against the day when the next ship will come in sight. The ships have changed the life of the islanders. But though they now use the tin opener rather than the hoe, they still bake their bread in stone ovens as their English forefathers did. And they also still bake kumra, the pulp of the sweet potato, in banana leaves, as did the Polynesian half of their ancestry. When they need fresh meat, then Pitcairn goes back to the simple, brutal contest of nature. The only living inhabitants are men, dogs, lizards, birds, and goats. For food, the men make war upon the goats. When they do, they are like goats themselves, prizing their quarry from the ledges and crannies of the rocks. Such little political argument as exists grows from the goats. The government of Fiji, which administers Pitcairn from 3,000 miles away, wants the goats destroyed or enclosed, so that trees may be planted to control the soil erosion. But the islanders fear the day when the ships may no longer call, and they would be without meat. And who, they ask, will put up the fences? Pitcairners do not look for work. They were born of mutineers. Their fathers knew authority as the dock and the noose. Today, they are not rebels, but they don't like the law. By the very act of killing for food, the Pitcairners deny one article of their personal religion, which forbids the eating of meat. But they have a dispensation to feed on the goat, since this is held to be a necessity for survival. It was John Adams, the final survivor of those days of violence, who drove the islanders back to the stern disciplines of religion. In 1886, a missionary determined that they should become Seventh-day Adventists. This congregation is indeed a family, sharing each other's blood. Christian, Warren, Young, McCoy, Clark. Fred Christian is the great-great-great-grandson of the mutineer of the Bounty. is his wife. Ivan is the 6th generation of the Christian line. Len is a Warrener, descendant of a sailor shipwrecked long ago. The ancestor of the island treasurer was Midshipman Young of the Bounty. Their disciplines are strict. They don't drink, they don't smoke. And each Saturday, their Sabbath, the church is always full. On this day appears one of the strange paradoxes of Pitcairn, where things old or new are equally accepted.
Hello, Esther. How are you? Hope you're better now. We all are well.
I wish you a good luck. And one day we might see you, if not on this earth, we hope to see you in the new world.
Ma says, was asking me say something to you, but I don't know what to say.
The tapes record the news of those who contrive to leave for the wider world, which to them is almost always New Zealand.
I want to sing this for Etty, and for Lilla, and for Edith, and for all the old folks over there. I will follow thee, my Savior, wheresoever my lot may be. Where thou goest,
on the island live mostly those who long to go, and those who have given up the dream.
Yes, my Lord, I'll follow thee.
Sabbath ends with sundown, and the islanders resume their uncomplicated pleasures. There are not many diversions, but music is the best, and the Pitcairn people at least know how to enjoy themselves when they can. Most Pitcairners have never lived another life. But for the young, that other life is always beckoning. Every time a ship arrives, with its papers, its records, its magazines, it stirs the longing that one day he may be on it when it leaves. Patience for the old, restlessness for the young, and for childhood as everywhere, sunrise and school. School begins with the first light of day, a classroom in the sun, with the endless Pacific around. The schoolmaster, who is from New Zealand, prepares the descendants of the Bounty for a future that no one can foresee. 2 square miles are their world. But for how long? Already the other world closes in. It will not be easy to enclose a community on a rock forever. This generation could perhaps be the last. But everything halts abruptly for the bell that says another ship is in sight. The punctuation mark in the endless empty calendar of Pitcairn. This time the ship has come with a purpose. Many weeks before, a letter had gone out from John Christian, the chief magistrate of Pitcairn, to a British oil company. Pitcairn needed oil, a tiny order of oil to run the island's generators, to fill the island's lamps. Could they send Pitcairn some oil across the ocean? Of course they could, and did. The tanker British Curlew was diverted from the New Zealand run. It couldn't hang about. In an hour, the weather can change. The wind veer to the northwest and send the Pacific rollers pounding into Bounty Bay. The islanders must work fast to bring ashore a year's supply of oil. Pitcairn has an economy largely without currency. To them, money is something that belongs to somewhere else. And this is no time nor place for the incomprehensible technicalities of checks. John Christian pays the bill in cash, in sackfuls of pounds and kroner and dollars and yen and guilders, in anything that looks like money that the islanders have gathered from whatever nation's ships have passed before, and which to them is useless on the island, except as something to hoard, to save, to pay one day perhaps that fare to the other world. Soon this ship too will have to leave, and the link be broken. Now the boats beat back to Bounty Bay, back to the life that must go on as it was before, as it is now, as it must always be. It was easier, perhaps, for those desperate forefathers to abandon the world 172 years ago than it can ever be for their children to return to that world. The old have not enough life left for the journey. The young have not the money. But this island has known other peoples come and go. Long before the mutineers, there were other societies on Pitcairn who left their faint mark with the inscrutable Polynesian standing stones. The Bounty seamen tore them down as heathen things and replaced them with their own, marking their own face and their own bones. Hanoverians, Victorians, Edwardians, Georgians, always a generation behind the world outside, living and breeding and dying from day to day, from week to week, from year to year. And each year the ships grow fewer. Each one now looks more desirable as it sails away, carrying the future with it, leaving the sons and daughters of Fletcher Christian's little band to their solitary island, their inward lives, their thoughts, the enormous empty ocean.